Oh man, just imagine that. Standing in a room so quiet, the silence screams louder than any shout could. Every eye piercing through the shadows, all fixated on you, yet nobody dares to break that thick, heavy quiet. It's almost hilarious how they thought they had you caged like a puppet tied to their strings, expecting you to stay small, hidden, obedient. How laughable. But here's the twist. What if I told you, you didn't just break those rules they so carefully crafted for you? Nah, you didn't just break them. You torched the entire damn rulebook. And now? Oh, now they're gasping, choking on the ashes of their own making, caught in the smoke of the fire you ignited. Can you feel the power in that? The raw, intoxicating rush of turning their expectations into dust while you stand there unscathed, smiling like you hold the world's wildest secret. This isn't some petty rebellion. No, this is a raging inferno inside your chest, burning hotter and fiercer with every doubt they threw your way. It's about exploding beyond their feeble games, their narrow judgments, their suffocating limits until all that's left of their control is nothing but disintegrated fragments scattered in the wind. This message, this fire is for those silent warriors, the ones pushed down, overlooked, underestimated until they rose up smarter, sharper, and more dangerous than anyone dared to imagine. Feel that pulse, that thunder in your veins. That's your story screaming to be told, relentless and raw. So buckle up, because this isn't just a tale, it's your awakening. Your power. Your revenge served cold and loud through the silence. This is yours, claim it. It didn't start with you, no. The fire burning fierce inside your chest. It was built for you, bit by bit, match by match, by those who thought they were clever enough to keep you small, to keep you quiet, to keep you powerless. The insults they hurled, they were fuel, not nails in a coffin, but sparks lighting the fuse. Every dismissive glance, every laugh that echoed behind your back, every time they looked at you like you were invisible, they were stacking dry wood onto your blaze. And the irony, they had no idea what they were doing. They thought they were breaking you, but really they were forging you, shaping a weapon of fire and steel, sharper than they ever imagined. At first you didn't want to fight, you craved peace, a chance to grow quietly without drawing unwanted attention. But here's the cruel twist of the world. Those who feel powerless inside can't stand to see others rise, even if you never meant to climb over them. They pull, they push, they try to drown you in doubt and fear, testing to see if you'll sink beneath their waves. And when they pushed, thinking they'd crushed your spirit, they were dead wrong. Every shove, every cold shoulder, every sneer only stoked the heat in your soul. They were melting you down and remolding you into something unstoppable, something no one could contain. You stayed silent for a while. You let their words drift like smoke, convincing yourself the fight wasn't worth it. But beneath that calm, a quiet storm gathered. You began collecting every insult, every underestimation, every failure they celebrated in secret. Those moments became your secret arsenal, silent promises burned into your mind, fueling a relentless hunger. Because fire doesn't stay small forever. It grows. It spreads. It doesn't care who lit the match or who deserves to burn. It simply moved, and you, the one they believed they controlled, became that fire. They say revenge is best served cold. But what a joke. The truest revenge is slow, simmering, invisible until it's too late. It creeps into every corner, turning quiet patience into an unstoppable inferno. You learned the power of waiting. You mastered the art of silence, letting them believe they'd won while you gathered strength hidden but alive. You let their false sense of victory blind them to the storm building just beneath the surface. Here's the bitter truth: they'll never own their part in starting the fire. They'll deny the nights they mocked you, the moments they ignored you, the times they made you feel less than. But you will never forget, not out of bitterness, but because those memories forged They handed you a weapon motivation books could never teach. This fire inside isn't fueled by hate. No, it's clarity. It's the understanding that you don't need to beg for a place in their world. You were always meant to build your own. The very people who tried to snuff out your light will be blinded by the blaze when it finally explodes. And when that day arrives, you won't need to scream. You won't gloat. You won't waste energy explaining yourself. The fire will speak for you. The results will roar louder than any words ever could. And silently, they'll know they should have never handed you the match. There comes a point in life when you're standing so close to the edge that the ground beneath your feet feels like it's about to give way. You can hear the wind screaming past your ears, feel the weight of everything you've been through pressing against your back. One wrong move and you fall. One sudden step and you're gone. Most people, when they get here, they freeze. They either turn back, crawling toward safety, or they let themselves tip over, ending the fight before it's really begun. But not you. You didn't back away. You didn't throw yourself off. You stood there. You stared down into the drop. And instead of fear, you felt something else, a strange, quiet calm. It's the kind of calm that comes when you realize the worst has already happened. You've already been humiliated, underestimated, broken, tested. You've already tasted rock bottom, and it didn't kill you. When you've been to the bottom and survived, the edge loses its power over you. The fall no longer scares you, because you know you can climb out again. And that's what changes everything. That's when you become dangerous. Because nothing, not their opinions, not their rules, not their threats can control someone who's not afraid of losing. They'll try to scare you back into place. They'll remind you of the risks. They'll paint the worst possible picture of what could happen if you move forward. But here's the thing they'll never understand. Once you've stood on the edge and looked down, you stop thinking about falling. You start thinking about flying. This is the point where you realize you've been living small because you were told to play safe, stay in the middle, avoid the edges, because it's dangerous out there. But safe is a slow death. Safe is chains dressed up as comfort. And standing on the edge teaches you that you were never meant to live in the middle. You were meant to push boundaries, to test limits, to see what's on the other side. The edge is where you shed the old version of yourself. The one who cared what they thought. The one who asked for permission. The one who waited for the perfect moment that never came. Up here the air is thin, sharp, electric. It wakes something primal inside you. A hunger to see just how far you can go when there's no one holding you back. And yes, it's risky. Yes, it's terrifying. But that's exactly why it's worth it. The edge demands something from you that comfort never will. It demands everything. Your courage, your focus, your willingness to leap without knowing exactly where you'll land. And that leap, that's what separates those who live the life they're given from those who create the life they want. Standing here, you understand something vital. The edge is not the end. It's the beginning. It's the line between the old game and the new one you're about to invent. Once you take that step, whether it's forward, sideways, or straight through the air, you can never go back to who you were before. And you wouldn't want to. Because the edge didn't scare you. It freed you. And now you're not here to avoid falling. You're here to prove you can soar. People are terrified of silence. They think it means nothing is happening. They think it means you've given up, stepped back, lost the will to fight. But you know better. You learned long ago that silence is not the absence of power. It's the storing of it. When you went quiet, they assumed it was defeat. They thought you'd accepted your fate, that you were licking your wounds somewhere in the dark. They thought the lack of noise meant the story was over. They had no idea that behind that stillness, behind that calm surface, you were rewriting everything. You weren't retreating, you were recalculating. Silence became your weapon because it made them comfortable. Comfortable enough to drop their guard. Comfortable enough to think you were harmless. And that's when you began stacking the ammunition they couldn't see. Every word you didn't say became fuel. Every reaction you didn't give was another inch of ground you claimed in the shadows. You learned to smile when they expected you to break. You learned to watch when they expected you to speak. You learned to let them fill the air with their arrogance while you studied every detail, every crack in their armor. The truth is, noise is easy. Anybody can scream. Anybody can slam a fist and demand attention. But real power doesn't need to shout. Real power waits. It calculates. It lets the world underestimate it. Because it knows that by the time it moves, the game will already be over. That's the kind of power you've been building in your silence. They didn't notice the way your eyes stopped darting around. They didn't notice the stillness in your hand. They didn't notice the way you started taking longer to answer. Not because you didn't have words, but because you were choosing them like bullets. Each one precise. Each one meant to land where it hurts the most. They thought silence meant weakness. In truth, it meant control. And control is something they can't stand. They want you loud and reactive because that's predictable. They know how to deal with noise. They don't know how to deal with someone who just looks at them, unblinking, while their own words echo back at them like a bad joke. Your silence became the mirror they didn't want to look into because it showed them exactly who they were. When you move in silence, you start noticing things you couldn't before. The way people talk when they think you're not listening. The way they slip when they believe you're not paying attention. Silence pulls the mask off faster than confrontation ever could. And you've been collecting masks like trophies. Now the time is coming when that silence will break. Not with noise, but with precision. A single move, a single word, a single step will be enough to unravel everything they thought was solid. And when it happens, they'll be too stunned to respond. Because in their minds, you were still the quiet one, still the background character. They won't understand that your silence wasn't absence. It was preparation. Silence is not surrender. It's the sharpening of the blade before the strike. It's the storm pulling itself together before it tears the sky in half. And you've been sharpening, you've been gathering. You've been building a storm so heavy that when it hits, there will be no shelter strong enough to stand against it. Let them talk. Let them fill the air with their noise. Because when you decide to break your silence, it won't just be heard. It will be felt. There comes a moment where everything flips. The rules you've been chained by suddenly don't apply. The script they wrote for you, irrelevant. The expectations they had, shattered. This moment, the turn, is where the old you dies quietly, and the new you walks in without knocking. It doesn't happen with a loud explosion. No, it's quieter than that, more dangerous than that. It's the moment you stop reacting and start creating. It's when you stop letting life push you around and you grab it by the throat. And that shift, it's not something they'll see coming. Because up until now, you've played your role so well, the underestimated one, the quiet one, the one they could control. But the turn makes that role vanish. And what replaces it doesn't fit into their world anymore. The turn is where you start moving differently. You're no longer waiting for opportunities, you're building them from nothing. You're no longer following their map, you're drawing your own terrain. You start questioning every rule they handed you, not with anger, but with cold, calculated precision. Who wrote this? Who benefits from this? Why should I obey something I never agreed to? Those questions turn into action. That action turns into momentum. And momentum is something no one can stop once it's in motion. This is the point where people start whispering. They can sense something's different, but they can't explain it. They'll call it luck. They'll call it a phase. They'll call it arrogance. But you know better. You know it's not luck, it's the inevitable result of finally stepping into your own power. Here's the thing. The turn is dangerous not because it changes you, but because it reveals you. It uncovers the person you were always capable of being, the person they spent years trying to keep buried. That person doesn't play by the same rule. That person doesn't flinch when faced with resistance. That person doesn't need anyone's green light to move. And when you step into that version of yourself, you notice how fragile their systems really are. All the rules, all the limits, all the unspoken you can't, they were illusion. Paper walls pretending to be steel. You realize that the prison you thought you were in was never locked. The door was always open. The only thing keeping you inside was the belief that you belonged there. The turn rips that belief to pieces. Once you've made the turn, there's no going back. The old you, the one who hesitated, the one who over-explained, the one who stayed small to make others comfortable, is gone. And if you ever tried to be that person again, it would feel like suffocating. You've tasted freedom now. You've felt the weight lift. You've seen what happens when you act instead of wait. That taste doesn't fade. People will try to drag you back. They'll remind you of who you used to be. They'll try to guilt you into playing small again because your growth makes them uncomfortable. But their comfort is not your job. Your job is to keep turning, to keep evolving, to keep breaking out of every box they try to put you in. The turn is not a one-time event, it's a decision you make every day. A decision to stay awake, to keep questioning, to keep burning what no longer serves you. And every time you choose it, you step further away from the person they thought they knew, and closer to the one you were always meant to be. There's a moment when you stop playing the game. Not because you've lost, but because you've realized the game was rigged from the start. Every rule you followed, every line you stayed inside, every "this is how it's done" was written to keep you in a place that served them, not you. And one day, something inside you snaps. You stop asking how to win their game, and start asking why you're even playing. That's when you reach for the rulebook. At first, you flip through it with disbelief. Every page feels like a lie you've lived by. Every sentence is a chain dressed up as guidance. It tells you when to speak, when to stay silent, what's acceptable, what's impossible. You realize you've been bending yourself into shapes just to fit inside a world that was never meant for you. And then without hesitation, you do the thing they never saw coming. You set it on fire. The flames start small. A quiet hiss of rebellion. The paper curls, blackens, peels away into ash. But as the fire grows, so does something inside you. It's not just paper burning, it's years of manipulation. It's every "you can't," every "that's not how it's done," every rule that made you doubt yourself. They melt away in the heat until nothing is left but the raw truth. You are free. When the smoke rises, so does your vision. You start seeing the world without their lines and boundaries. You realize there is no right way, except the way you decide. And that's terrifying for them. Because a person with no rulebook is unpredictable. They can't control you. They can't measure you. They can't prepare for what you'll do next. Burning the rulebook doesn't mean chaos for the sake of chaos. It means you've stopped letting their limits dictate your moves. It means you've taken ownership of your life in a way most people never dare to. You're not reckless. You're precise. You're not lost. You're free. You're building your own rules, your own standards, your own version of what's possible. And here's the thing, they will hate it. They'll say you're dangerous. They'll call you a rebel, a troublemaker. But every revolution, every shift in history, every breakthrough began with someone who was willing to light the old rulebook on fire and watch it burn. You're just following in the footsteps of every mind that refused to be caged. The ash on the ground becomes a reminder the old way is gone. You don't answer to their system anymore. You don't seek their approval. You don't measure your worth with their scale. The only thing that matters now is how far you can go when nothing is holding you back. And here's the secret. Once the rulebook burns, you can never be the same. You'll walk differently. You'll speak differently. You'll see through every trick, every lie, every fake wall they put in your way. You'll laugh when they say that's not allowed, because you know there is no one left to enforce those rules but the ghosts of people you've already outgrown. The fire is still smoldering in your hands, and the smoke is in their lungs. They're coughing on the ashes of the world they built for you. And you're standing in the open, unchained, with nothing but possibilities stretching out in every direction. You didn't just break the rules. You burned the whole damn book. And now they'll never know what you'll do next. Once the rulebook burns, the world doesn't suddenly become easy. It becomes yours to remake. The ashes beneath your feet aren't a sign of destruction. They're the foundation of something new. The game you played before was designed by others to limit you, to keep you trapped in their version of reality. But now you're the architect of the chaos, the mastermind behind the rules no one else understands. This is where the true power lies. Not in rebellion for rebellion's sake, but in creating something untouchable. Something they never saw coming because it didn't fit their narrow minds. You're no longer a pawn or even a player, you're the game changer. The one who shifts the entire board, who rewrites what winning means. And that kind of power, it's the kind that makes their heads spin. In this new game, predictability is your enemy. You've shed the skin of their expectations and stepped into the unpredictable. Every move you make is a question mark. Every word a calculated mystery. They can't pin you down, they can't forecast your next step. You're a storm wrapped in a riddle, moving with purpose and menace, but silent and unseen until it's too late. They'll scramble to understand, to catch up, but the truth is they're already behind. You're running on a path they never knew existed, fueled by pain turned into power, by silence sharpened into a weapon. The new game isn't about playing by their rules anymore. It's about erasing the rules altogether, and with that erasure comes freedom, terrifying, exhilarating freedom. Freedom from judgment, freedom from limits, freedom from the weight of what if and should have. You're no longer chained to their approval, their timelines, their boxes. You move like smoke in the wind, intangible, elusive, impossible to grasp. But this freedom isn't careless. It demands focus sharper than a blade, a mind colder than ice, and a heart hardened by the fires you've walked through. Because with no rules comes no guide. You must become your own compass, your own law, and you do it with ruthless precision. Here, in this new game, you discover what it means to be truly alive. Not just surviving, but thriving in a world you've torn down and rebuilt in your own image. The stakes are higher, but so are the rewards. This is where legends are born. This is where silence turns into a roar. This is where you become unstoppable. The others, they'll watch, they'll whisper, they'll try to imitate, but they'll never understand what it means to rise from ashes, with fire in your veins and shadows in your eyes. You don't need their approval anymore. You only need your own.